Hello, everyone. Welcome to Adventures in Who, episode 2. I'm Martin.
I'm Tash.
And we're here to review the Star Beast today, predominantly. I should say that this is a Doctor Who podcast. That's a good way to open a podcast, by actually explaining what it is. Doctor Who podcast, just two friends gabbing around a silly sci-fi show, not taking it too seriously, here for your enjoyment. Main order of business is there's brand spanking new Doctor Who after what, over a year, I think it is? It's been over a year. And we got
over a year of teasing and announcements. We finally got it.
We finally got a whole episode of Doctor Who. What fun. Or was it? We'll shortly talk about it and find out.
We'll discuss. Someone had fun.
Yeah. First things first. How's Tash? How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy that we're in holiday season. But yeah, my brain can't fathom it, but I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's the 30th of November, by the way, for YouTube purposes.
I know.
Yeah.
It is like right at the end. And it's also, these are kind of the holiday, leading up to holiday episodes, per se.
Let's not beat around the bush.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this thing. The Star Beast.
Talk the gab.
The breakdown of the episode is it's based on a comic book from 1980, I believe, is when it was published. The story itself has the Doctor in an old face coming back to Earth, running into Donna, who cannot know him or her head will explode. Then immediately a crash, or seemingly a crashed spaceship, shows up in the middle of central London. And then there's a little alien critter running around, and then there's big crab aliens walking around, and it's down to the Doctor to figure out, and Donna, what the hell is going on, why is it going on, and who's really the bad guy, who's the good guy, and there's all sorts of other things going on. That's basically what the episode is about. Who wants to go first with their general impressions? Your first impressions. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I know, like, we're going to break it down a little bit further into different things. So I'll give, like, kind of a vague, general
just a first impression.
Yeah, I think there are some things that were exciting about it, and I think is exciting to different communities, per se. I think I was just kind of disappointed a little bit, though, as well. It had the potential to be a lot more to me, at least. But I think for someone new coming in and not having actually, like, no idea what it was about, you know, like, if you just, that was the first thing that you switched on for the TV show, I think it was very quirky and, like, kitschy, per se, where you didn't have to have a very serious attitude going into it. You could be like, oh, okay, this is fine. I think it's for people who may have more historical knowledge, where it's a little bit lackluster in some places.
My overriding thought about this episode is that it is a Russell T. Davies script, for better and for worse. Through and through. And through.
It really was.
like you say, I think if this was your first ever episode of watching this show, it's a perfectly enjoyable adventure, crowd-pleasing episode. Put it that way. It's a crowd. It's not, I would say my overall feeling is not bad. It didn't wow me at all during it. And I think it's worth pointing out, we've mentioned this in the first episode, I don't think either of us are super attached to David Tennant's Doctor, and like maybe that's and plays an element into our excitement or what we're looking for, per se. Like,
maybe.
Just to get this out of the way, I've seen a lot of people very happy with this episode, and like, hey, good for you. Good for you. Yes. I'm happy you're enjoying it, and like, it's all for you. People have been like, 10 out of 10, it's the best episode in the last 10 years, all that. Hey, you do you. I can name at least 5 episodes I prefer over this in the last 10 years. That's me, definitely. Though. Yeah, it's definitely, it suffers from the same problems I had with Russell T. Davies' episodes in the past. Largely to do with his resolutions and how he wraps the plot up. That's where most of my problems come in.
It was very much the same kind of thing carrying on over.
But I think, as always, he's very good at setting stuff up. He's good at having a middle of the episode twist set piece thing that re-hooks you back in. But then there's something at the end where I'm like, this is a bit clunky. I don't know if this is all feeling good for for me. I will just point out, Eggy says the best episode in the last 2 years. I can certainly see, I can see a bit of that. Considering one of the episodes we got was that Sea Devil episode where I love the Sea Devils, but what the fuck was happening when that? I don't know what was happening there.
Yeah, I don't even think that was, and I know this is not a conversation about that,
No.
but for me, I don't even think the episode itself upset me as much as just kind of like an ending that I was like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah. I get
What
you.
do you mean? Yeah.
But like we said,
Yeah, and again, I have a very different perspective on the past few years of Doctor Who, so it's
it's fair
definitely
though. That's, I guess, our general. We're kind of on the same page.
yeah,
I think. I feel like which we're pointing out, we haven't actually spoken to each other about the episode really at all.
No. No, all I said was, "I feel like I'm against the popular opinion, and I'm nervous about that."
I feel like we might be outliers on this episode.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll get there, but I'm much more interested in this week's episode than what this week was. I feel like the coming episode is looking a bit more my thing opposed to this one. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. So yeah, I've noted down a bunch of what I think are like the main talking points which we can go through. First things first, let's get this out of the way. Opening titles. How are we feeling about those new shiny opening titles, Tash? Go for it.
It was really funny because when I watched the episode, I think within like 10 minutes, I sent you a Discord and I was like, how did they make it worse?
Again, I feel like we might be outliers on this. I don't know if anyone's going to agree with us about this.
I know. I was also in a very sassy mood that evening as well. Like I had to have a separate conversation with Eggy kind of about how I felt about certain topics after I was out of a sassy mindset because I was a little frustrated. It was fine. It was just what it was, I guess.
Yeah,
I know it's very vague, but I don't really have much more feedback.
The main thing, like, we'll get to the music in a second, but as for the actual title sequence, the way it looks, it's very pretty. The graphics are good. I prefer it if you're, like, on the ride as a POV, opposed to a bunch of cinematic shots of
just
stuff
jumping
happening
through waves.
Yes. Yeah. Like I feel like that's
just like a dolphin tortoise.
Yeah, it feels like that's a much better way of like, hey, you're about to embark on an adventure by having you be in the POV of the thing and you're following the thing. It's a nitpick. It's a little thing. I just kind of prefer that. The main thing about that intro that drove me crazy, made me laugh, was how the logo appears like it's on a fucking PowerPoint. Like it just spins in from nowhere. It's like, what is happening?
And it's very like Warner Brothers-esque to me, like very cartoon Warner Brothers. Like I don't even know.
I mean, I like the logo. I like how the logo disappears from it, like it actually like fades and glows. But the way it appears on screen is like they just chose a random corner and it just spins in. I was like, okay. I feel like you could have done that a little bit better.
In contrast to like all of the crazy cinematic things that they did in there as well, right? You have like these really beautiful scenes of like the TARDIS jumping through waves and stuff like that, and then you get that.
It is like like you say, it's all the visuals in that intro are gorgeous.
Yeah,
I just prefer like that POV shot, the logo situation, and then also my biggest point. I will never shut up about this. Put his face in the titles, you goddamn cowards. Do it. It's right.
This is a grudge that Indies had for a very long time.
Exactly. Like Stephen Moffat did it. He finally put Matt Smith's face in the title sequence. I was so happy. And then Pete Capaldi had his face in there, and then they took it away from me. They
took it away.
These bastards. But that is like
they gave you a little bit of hope and then they ripped it away from you again.
It's the nittiest of nitpicks, but I will die on this hill, goddamn.
No, it's all right. I mean, you've had so many years of this, right?
I mean,
in your brain
the thing is,
childhood.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being 11 years old with that. Christopher Eccleston first started, and I was like, "Where's his face? Why is his face not
in
that?
What is this garbage?
what? This bold lettered actor's name. I don't care about his name. I want to see his face. God damn it.
Give me his face. The moneymaker.
Okay, well, that's the titles. Plot. let's just talk about the plot for a second.
Yeah.
So like I said, the story largely involves who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Meep the beep, the little fuzzball.
I think it's beep the meep.
Beep the meep, meep the beep,
Yes.
meep the beep.
Meep the beep. Meep. This is the sound of the
Meep.
police.
Is it meep the beep? Meep the beep. Right?
It's beep the meep.
Is it?
Yeah.
The meep. I thought it was the meep. Right?
Well, that's just what I like. Hold on.
All right, but research is happening. That's fine. We can research on the fly.
Yeah, it's beep the meep.
Beep
And
the
then
meep.
it just refers to like the meep
The meep. Okay.
as the pronouns.
Thing is, when this got leaked that the beep meep meep beep was going to be in this episode, I knew the comic, so instantly like, well, I know where the story's going.
Yeah, you're like, I've seen this tale before.
Yeah, I know what the story is. However, I think it worked as a adaptation of a thing, and like we were saying, like it's a perfectly good, crowd pleasing, family fun adventure. And for most of the plot, as it unveiled itself, perfectly fine. Like very serviceable, very safe, but serviceable.
Yeah.
I do have. I feel like I'm being very down on the episode. I do have good things to say about it, and we'll get there.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
However, how the plot sort of resolves itself, and again, spoilers, is that basically the Doctor runs around the room flicking a load of buttons, and then everything's okay again. So
you just let it go.
Yeah, so for
just like that.
Just let it go. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that. Don't worry.
I know. Just a teaser.
Context: if you haven't seen the episode, the Meep is a bad guy. It is revealed. Straight up murdering people and eating them. And is refueling their spaceship by basically destroying all of London. Like London becomes an inferno. You see a whole shot of everything on fire. And but all it takes to resolve that is I'm just going to turn this dial, flick some buttons, and then London rebuilds itself somehow.
Yeah,
this is all fine. No one will remember this. No one will ever mention it again.
Nope.
Like I say, that's a classic RTD thing. Like it very much smacked me in the face of the Last of the Time Lords, where they literally have a big reset button of, well, no one's going to remember this past year. Don't worry about it. So, like, and that,
nothing.
Yeah, and that I don't know. Maybe it's me just like, I don't know. I just feel like it's not satisfying for that to be the resolution where just everything's okay. And I get it. It's fantasy. It's silly sci-fi fantasy. You can do that stuff. But I'm just like, can we have some consequences to the action sometimes? Just a little bit.
And there are it was already a situation where there are no consequences to the action, right? In more ways than one. So it's just kind of like a very rushed, everyone's happy and everything's fine again kind of ending.
Yeah.
So it felt like a rushed episode in some parts for me.
Ever since the show came back, it's always felt like either the beginning feels very rushed or the ending feels very rushed. So either new characters who get introduced, now this is not just for this episode, it's like across the board. Either characters get introduced in a way where you don't get attached to them and then they're disposed of, and it's like, oh, okay, bye. Or like the emotional crescendo doesn't necessarily land because you're jamming so much in and you've got like a very short period of time to wrap everything up. And I certainly felt that with this episode where everything just kind of wrapped up.
100%.
Everything just, it's all good.
Yeah. It's almost like you don't need any of the other episodes, you know?
And then as you alluded to, just let it go. Just let it go. I kind of thought that this whole dealing with the meta crisis, Donna's head exploding, I thought that was going to be kind of like a thing over all three of these episodes.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. Me too.
But seemingly, at face value from what this episode ends on, it's like, well, we've dealt with it. Let's move on.
Easy peasy. It's not like for 15 years, this has been the one thing everyone around Donna's life who knew has been stressed about. But, it's just a little snap of the fingers and everything's fine.
Just let it go. Let it go.
Just let it
Let it
go.
go. That's
Yeah.
and the thing is about that, and we'll talk about Rose in a moment,
Yeah.
but I was so satisfied with them explaining it just by, hey, you had a kid, it split the energy between you, and then
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you activated it, it just burnt off what there was left. And I was
Yep.
like, hey, I'm happy with that. That's fine. If that's how you want to resolve it, it makes sense. It's his
Yeah.
own thing.
Yeah.
But then you just have this kind of tacked on bit. Oh, it's still in you, so we have to deal with that. Oh, well, you're male presenting and you wouldn't understand, so we're just gonna let it go. Bye. it's it's so weird. It's such a
It's
weird moment.
coming, like, especially since okay, there's been about 15 years of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've had a female doctor
Mm-hmm.
who, for all intents and purposes, could have just checked in on Donna, like, a little, like, from afar check-in, and you wouldn't you didn't think that doctor could have thought of it, or David Tennant coming
Mm-hmm.
into being the doctor again after having experienced a few years as a female, like, I feel like he could have yeah, it just
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it made no sense
It doesn't like
in the slightest.
especially in that way. If she was addressing that to the 10th Doctor specifically, I could
Yeah,
get it. It would make sense. Like clearly
yeah.
his last line was, "I don't want to go." He has trouble letting go of things. It's that would have made sense. But given
Just a little bit.
you're addressing someone who, like you say, has been a female, like
Yeah.
has had a lot more experience, it just felt very odd. Like it didn't feel
Yeah.
necessary. Is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, and I feel like there are a lot of things, like, statements made in this that, like, kinda seemed to wanna prove a point, but didn't give it, like, the full attention and time that each of those points needed to be, like, fully thought out and for everyone to fully understand,
Mm.
and I think that was one of those where it was kind of just like a like, you know, what the butt, like, just made one statement and then just let it go. Like, if that was an option this whole time,
Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, there's 2 more episodes to go.
yeah,
There may be other things that come up that we don't know about. It's
yeah,
important to point
yeah,
out there might be more to this, but it seems that, like I say, at face value at this point, that's that. It's done with. We're good. We can just continue from this. But
we're all good.
and we
We can
saw,
remember everything.
yeah, we did see in a trailer that there's a moment where the doctor says, "I might not be able to save you this time." So maybe there's a bigger threat for Donna on the way that's not been revealed yet. So we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
Any plot relevant things that I haven't said that you want to bring up?
Yeah, at face value, it's very, like, a typical Donna and Doctor adventure, like, Donna has her kind of witty lines and things like that. I do felt like it seemed like Donna kind of lost her fire, and this might just be my own opinion, like, they were
Hmm.
giving her those lines that were supposed to be, like, witty and funny, and not they totally were, but it seemed like they kind of just, like, dulled Donna down a little bit for me, right? Like, even the doctor talks about Donna as, like, she's brilliant, but she's ordinary, and you just kinda see Donna in this frustrating situation again, where she doesn't have a job again, like, she gave away all of her money, and she couldn't really remember why. Because last we saw Donna, right, she had that winning lottery ticket. She got married within that time, they had a beautiful daughter named Rose, and it's like they were just struggling all over again. I feel like we never get to see Donna not struggle, and it seemed like,
Mm.
for the most part, she's always still had, like, a kick-ass attitude towards life and just, like, "Nobody's gonna tell me what's what," you know?
Hmm.
And it
Uh,
seemed like some of that was a little bit dulled down, and I felt like I would have appreciated a little bit, I think, maybe of more justice for Donna. I know there's why they added, like, that lottery plot in it, right? Like, she doesn't remember why she gave away her money, or she doesn't really know why she gave away her money because she doesn't remember the doctor, so she's kind of was at a conflict with herself because it's, like, something the doctor would do,
hmm.
and is upset at herself because her family is struggling now and, like, just couldn't really understand that portion of herself, and I could see why they put that in there plot-wise. I still just think they could have given, like, a little bit more justice for Donna, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Donna's always just kinda getting shit on.
Hmm.
Like, the coffee when she spills the coffee at the end, like, I know that is a very, like, Donna-esque thing, but it's been 15 years, she's had a child, like,
I mean,
I
is it?
think
I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
I
like, I just at some point, you gotta stop kind of, like, I don't know. Yeah, I get yeah.
Is she? I mean, she spent a lot of this episode being kind of like not herself per se.
Yeah.
And there are plot reasons for that. Like it's like
Yeah.
there's been a slow awakening in her mind as she's starting to remember certain things and putting
Yeah.
things together, and she's very kind of wistful, I guess is the right way of putting it. For a lot of the episodes, she's just kind of like,
Yeah.
but there are moments where you can see the like I'm not going to back down. Like I did love the moment where she was talking to Rose and saying, "Yo, if anyone has a go at you, I will destroy them." I did.
Yeah, I will descend.
I did like that. That was good.
Yeah, and even when she's talking to her own mother about, because I think, her mother is saying, like, "Do I call Rose gorgeous? You know, I don't know what's right," which I feel like is very indicative of some of the older generations just being like, "Well, I don't know what you crazy kids are doing nowadays," you know? Like, there's a lot of sometimes fighting for individuals and their pronouns because older generations are like, "Well, I don't get it," and not to say that Sylvia was doing that by any means, it was
No.
much more of a, like, kind of genuine thing, but you see how, Donna then talks so passionately, right, about her
Hmm.
daughter in that scene, and then is also, like, kind of talking about herself as like, to her mother as, like, "You should appreciate your own daughter," like, "Right, mom?" Like,
Fishing for
"I'm
compliments.
beautiful." Yeah. Yeah, definitely, there's nothing but love
Yeah, I
for
did.
Donna, and it's
I
powerful.
really enjoyed that they made Donna's family nice. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
yeah,
that
yeah,
her mother Sylvia, and like they have a much better relationship now compared to what their relationship was previously.
yeah,
Like I say, like the how Rose factors into that as well. Like I enjoyed everything to do with Donna's family. I really liked, and it's what's Russell's really good at writing is that kind of family dynamics and
yeah,
conflict,
just
but the right kind of
emotions.
conflict, and all of that
Yeah,
stuff. So I did enjoy all of that. We're knee deep into this now, so we may as well just keep talking about um, David Tennant and Catherine Tate back as their
yes,
characters, how
yeah,
we're feeling about them. Like just to continue from Donna because that's where we're at. No,
yeah,
I enjoyed her in here, but like I said, I feel like she's going to come more into her own as the next two episodes come along. Um,
yeah,
but I liked her for it. She was funny.
mm,
She still just slipped back into that role easily.
yeah,
So yeah, I did enjoy Donna. Um, I will say, as earlier stated, I'm not like super attached to David Tennant as the Doctor. He's not. I mean, I like David Tennant a lot. I like him as an actor, a human. He's just there's just something about the 10th Doctor that doesn't drive with me as much as the others. But I think like this might be one of my favorite performances from him playing this part.
well, that's big for you.
Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
I don't
it's big for you.
there's something about his performance. I mean, guess because like maybe it's a conscious choice by him to try and make it different at least a little bit from the 10th Doctor, and he's just or maybe it's just the fact that David Tennant's older. And
Yeah, there's been a lot of years in between too.
um
Yeah,
but I found he's just a lot more restrained, which I liked. There wasn't so much of the like the scene where he's like got the hologram up with a screwdriver, which is a whole thing that the screwdriver can now do. Um
yeah, the screwdriver got 3, it seems like 3 major upgrades with that
it's
with
got
that
so
Disney money.
yeah, exactly. It's like been off screen, like something happened between these two episodes, and that screwdriver can do everything now. It can 3D
Yeah,
print, it can do all the things. But no, in his performance, I
yeah,
feel like if that performance was looking at that hologram,
yeah.
he'd be like right up in it, like he'd be doing like
Yeah, yeah,
all of that kind of stuff. But here he's just kind of
yeah,
leaning back, just soaking in the information, like just a lot
taking it
more.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just a little bit more chill.
yeah,
And like I said, that might be a conscious choice on his part to do something a little bit different and reflect the incarnations that have come after and all of that stuff. But yeah,
yeah,
I really liked him in this. I feel like he boosted up the eccentricity when it was needed.
yeah.
Aka the whole taxi judge scene whipping out the wig, which is like weirdly enough, I mentioned this last week. That one of the introduction stories I had to Doctor Who was Stones of Blood.
Yeah.
That wig reference comes from that episode. Like Tom Baker whips out a wig in that
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's meant to be the same wig, as the idea is that he's just had it in his pocket
Yeah, probably.
this whole
Yeah.
time.
It's just it's always been there.
It was just wild that came back up when we started this.
Yeah.
But I did like that scene. So yeah, you think he just bounced out a lot better. Like it didn't come across as, I can't think of the right word to describe what it is about the 10th Doctor that doesn't jive with me quite so much.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say arrogant. I don't feel that's the right word, because all the Doctors can be arrogant at times and it's part of the character, but
Yeah.
it's a slight egotistical nature of the 10th Doctor that can be there from time to time, which didn't drive with me. It seemed
Yeah.
to not be there quite so much, at least so
Yeah,
far in this
a little
performance.
bit unbridled. A little bit
Mm.
unbridled.
How did you feel? How did you feel about the DT?
I think it was good. I think just my generic kind of overview after this ended was like I felt like we didn't need like if that was how easily that story was wrapped up, I felt like it didn't need to be David Tennant. Like I don't know, it seemed like we didn't have to bring him back per se.
Mm-hmm.
I know why they did because it's a fan favorite, but I feel like it wasn't something that was like so key to us that we couldn't have kind of done something special with Shooty. And I don't think it was because of David Tennant's performance. I think it was just kind of the overtone of the episode. Like David Tennant did do great. You kind of see him even when like Sylvia's yelling, like, "You don't see that. That's not real." Not like just as like Beef is literally hugging Donna's leg, the doctor's coming in. And, like, the doctor makes a comment about 2 hearts, and Sylvia's like, "No, he doesn't have that," and, like, just David Tennant's kinda just, like, sitting there and being like I kinda get just, like, more, like, witty and calm about it. He's like, "What do you f" like, like, "Yes, I have 2 hearts. Unfortunately, yes, I'm here, but, like, we have a bigger problem," and just kind of goes about
Yeah,
jiving back into the family.
did you
Uh
feel he was being too flippant about maybe like triggering her brain when he was like, "I have 2 hearts. Oh, this is a sonic
yeah, there was,
screwdriver,
like,
by the way."
no qualms about it, right? It's just, like, so casual, like, "Let me into your home. I'm gonna sit on the ground," and just, like yeah, there was a lot more casualty to it. It was a lot more casual, but a lot more matured, in a way, like, even when he is speaking to the unit agent, it's kind of just, like, sitting in the shadows a little bit, trying to figure things out to himself versus being, like, super showy about stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like we saw a little bit of that. I do think that the scene with, like, the glass coming I don't even know if you could if that wasn't even the glass, the shield coming down in the ship that kind of separates him and Donna,
Mm.
and kind of then forces her hand at having to make Donna remember. It was very kind of not exactly the same, but it brought back to how we see there's one scene with Wolf and the kind of those 2 glass doors with the radiation,
Yeah.
and he has to in order to let Wolf out, he has to then go into the other one and kind of take on that radiation himself. And they're both having conversations through these glass windows. It's kind of like a one of us might die situation. Like a sacrifice needs to be made here, and we're not happy about the sacrifice.
Mm.
And like kind of how Wilf in that episode isn't fully understanding what's happening at first. Like, was like, well, just let me out, And you kind of see Donna also like what do you mean? Like, what do you mean I can fix this issue? Like,
Yeah.
give me the information that my daughter's down there. And kind of just both being confused and the doctor having to have like a serious conversation through these glass walls. Um, and like having to convey information like emotions in that moment. And I think seeing and obviously with Wolf, the doctor was sacrificing himself, not sacrificing Wolf.
Mm.
And you see kind of like the doctor be like so and which is also David Tennant, be so emotional in that thing, like, he's like, "Why me? Like, I have so much more to offer." Like, this essentially kind of like, "This is bullshit." Like, "Why?" And you see a little bit more of a mature and obviously with the Donna situation, it's not himself he's sacrificing, it would have to be Donna. But you see, like, a little bit more maturity in that moment of, like,
Yeah. Not having a temper
this
tantrum.
sucks. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, like there wasn't as much of a temper tantrum. It still was a little bit about him, which kind of also kind of brought me back to the Wolf moment of him being like, "Why me? Like, I have so much more to offer," kind of that selfish moment of like, "Why do I have to be the one to sacrifice something when I'm always sacrificing things to save people.
Yeah.
And so but I think he handled it, like, in this scene with Donna was much more mature. Not any less painful per se, but yeah, it kinda just gave me flashbacks to that wolf scene, and it might have just been the generic setup of, like, being separated, trying to have a serious conversation of one of us is going to die
Yeah.
type of thing, but yeah, it gave me kind of like a flashback to that
Yeah. No,
and the differences
that's
in the doctor between 2.
I think you just kind of hit it on the head for me. What I liked about it is that the straightness, but like in his 10th Doctor performance, a lot of his emotions would be very broad. So if he's angry, he'd be shouty. If he's sad, you better believe he's turning those taps on and tears are coming all over the place.
Yeah,
Um,
standing outside in the rain outside the
yeah,
TARDIS crying.
exactly, exactly. It's like that's become a meme for a reason.
Yeah,
um, but here, like you say, he's being a lot more subtle and just kind of wearing certain emotions on his face a little bit more rather than having outbursts, which I think is
yeah,
what I liked a lot more in this
yeah,
performance versus that. Shall we talk about Rose?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I really like Rose. I think she's really, really good. Like, just just as a character, she's got that inquisitiveness. You're like, yeah, go on the ventures.
yeah,
Take her with you. Go
yeah,
do the thing because it seems
yeah,
like it would work. Why not
yeah,
do that? I don't know like how you feel they handled the whole representation and stuff, but
yeah,
for me, I feel like it was an honest stab at doing it, not like hiding away from stuff. Like they obviously had a scene with some dead naming going in, and I feel like
yeah,
it's truthful to what that experience is without going too far. It just felt,
yeah.
but it felt natural for what it was, and it made that point. I don't know if you felt the same, or if you feel they should have gone further with it, or if it wasn't. I know Russell T Davies has said, I don't know if I got it all right, but
Yeah.
I wanted to try to do it. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to see a little bit more for Rose. I love that Rose is in there. I love that actress. And I think it's, like another very important step. One of my things was I was really scared what happened at Jodie's season would make people scared of change.
Hmm.
And here you see a lot of change. Like you see, I think Russell's trying to say like my earnest intentions are still there to continue this stuff forward, like, in more ways than one, and so, I was really excited at the casting of Rose, and as there was kind of that mystery of, like, "Oh, it's another character named Rose, like, what does this have to be?" Kind of, is this gonna tie back to the
Hmm.
other Rose? And we kind of find out because of the Donna situation that, um Rose kind of chose their own identity and Rose because of a little bit of those memories are imprinted between them and has, like, all of these lovely toys and I would buy one of Rose's toys in a second. They were all adorable and kind of just, like, having this moment of, like, I'm I'm different, and you at the end, Rose kind of is like, "I can finally know why I'm different a little bit," in more ways than one, obviously, and being like, "I can finally like, I know who I am now."
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's a really important thing that I think a lot of individuals who go through transitioning and trying to figure out like who they are and where they belong in the world. And like gender can be very fluid and it can be complicated at times. Sexuality can be complicated at time. And it's nice to kind of have that moment of just like seeing a supportive family around that and seeing Rose come to terms with her identity. You do see a little bit of that dead naming that happens when the boys from school are teasing her, which kind of kicks into that scene with Donna being like, "I will descend if
Yeah.
anyone gives you any issues," and just that passion. I like would have loved to see like I would have loved to see a little bit more of Rose though. I think it's amazing that they even brought up pronouns in the show, right? And, like, give that kind of that quick moment, but it would have been, like, a little bit nice to kind of see why that's important, right? Because I think a lot of individuals who do change their pronouns or use they, them, or are going through transitions, like, there's a lot of sometimes pain or complications that become behind it, or there's a lot of society just kind of being like, "Well, I'll try my best, but, I don't really know why we're doing this," and not really wanting to actually try for them, and it would have been nice to see a little bit of, like, why that's important, right? Why we're making that comment to the fandom to try help change this for individuals in that
Mm,
community. It would have been nice to kind of have a little bit more kick to that. I can see why they didn't do it. But yeah, I would have liked a little bit more of that for Rose. But I love what Rose stands for, and I think representation is really important. And even like a small step is a better step than we had before, right?
yeah.
And so I'm sure like it's awesome to see that representation. I hope that we get to see a little bit more of Rose in these following episodes because I feel like Rose
Mm.
has so much potential and is nothing but delightful, probably given all of the circumstances, leading up to transition and just being a teenager in general isn't easy, let alone
Yeah.
going through that and getting teased from school. So I'm excited to see more of Rose.
Yeah. Fair. I mean, I expect she should be in the third episode at least.
Yeah,
So hopefully
hopefully.
she has more to do in that episode because you're right. She's kind of a device to get introduced to the Meep, and then she kind of is taken a back seat from that point onwards, and then comes back at the
Yeah.
end for the whole resolution. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it'd be nice to, like I say, it'd be nice to see more of her. Like it'd be a shame if she's only in it for these 2 episodes, and that's it. Because
Yeah, that's kind of all we get to see of that
yeah,
type of character. Yeah.
yeah. But no, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I liked her, so yeah, hopefully we shall see more in episode 3, maybe a little bit in episode 2, depending on how episode 2 ends or how it goes. We have no idea. No, we know
Yeah,
nothing.
nothing. Yeah, we know
We know.
literally nothing about episode 2. They've been keeping it under secret.
YouTube, there was an edit. You don't notice the edit. You should have been here live for this.
Oh my gosh.
We're back. No. Well, before we move on, Eggy in chat did just say, how did we not discuss David Tennant's hair and how it's gotten taller since his last appearance? You're right. His hair looks better now than it did when he was in the show originally. I don't understand. The man's in his 50s and his hair looks better. I'm 30 and my hair looks like it belongs on a witch living in a wood. Like, what is going on? Why is his hair better now? Yeah, I'm so jealous. It's beyond belief.
It's just a lot higher. I don't
So
know
much
if it's
higher.
better. It's just higher.
It looks so much thicker though. Maybe it's just because it's in HD now, and it's like I can really see the density in that hair.
I think maybe they learned something from his time playing Crowley.
Right? Yeah.
Some new tricks and tricks because there's a lot of hairstyles on that.
That Marvel money, the Disney money, all of it's really paying for
Yeah.
David Tennant's haircut.
One thing that I wanted to say
Go
real
on.
quick before I forget, like in terms of like Donna and Date, like the doctor's relationship, I think it was really funny. Donna's always been like someone who kept the doctor in line throughout all of the chaos and things. Like Donna had no qualms about telling the doctor off, like telling it how the doctor was, um, where because it wasn't a love interest, like it was just very pure, like listen here, mate. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
was part of the reason why Donna was such a great companion and had so much to offer. And I think it was really funny when like Donna sees the doctor the first time, and like right at the end, like of that opening scene, kind of, she's like, "You can wear a suit that tight up to 35 years old, and not a year older," and like turns to walk.
It's so because out like in context of the scene, it's just a random guy that she doesn't know, and she's saying, and she's saying, like,
Oh, it was so perfect. It was so indicative of their relationship.
actually, I'm thankfully you brought me back because there was something I wanted to mention about that opening
Oh,
scene.
okay.
You brought me back to this. I wrote a note especially, and this might be nothing. This might be me reading into something. So when Donna is picking up the boxes after they're on the floor, and she's missing the spaceship crashing in true Donna fashion,
Everything. Yeah.
she mentions a throwaway line about he hasn't stacked these right. Like I always say, you shouldn't trust a man with a goatee. Now, there's only one character in the Doctor Who universe that I associate with having a goatee. And I feel like it's a very specific thing to be saying just
Yeah, words are
offhand.
intentional in this.
Oh, so I'm just
Yeah.
calling it now.
Mhm.
If a certain masterly character happens to show up in one of these episodes, I called it because of that line. I want you all to remember
We'll give you that.
if
Yes.
the master
Yes.
shows
You
up.
heard it here first. You heard it here first, folks.
But thank you. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up just so I can either look like a genius in a couple weeks' time or stupid.
Well, and I
One of the
think
two.
like that's people that have been in like the Whoverse for so long, right? Like we're so accustomed to trying to pick up on the smallest things because
Yeah.
sometimes like they could mean something, sometimes they can mean nothing. But a lot of the times you're always just kind of left like, what the fuck is going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to piece together things and look out for things, and that's a really clear sign of something that you would do that someone who's watching the episode for the first time ever, like this is their new thing to it, like they wouldn't pick up on that.
No.
That's something that we see a lot throughout all of like the Doctor Who universe, where it's trying to like be like, oh, maybe this means this or this means that. And I
Yeah.
think that also sometimes is what can lead us to being kind of disappointed by the writing is because we're like,
Yes,
trying to
absolutely.
theorize, we're trying to, like, piece together this, like, mystery puzzle, and sometimes it's done really well in the end, and sometimes it's not, and you're like, "What?
Why didn't you give me
What
what
was
I
that?"
want?
Yeah.
Basically, look, it's all
Yeah.
fandoms are guilty of this, where you're like,
Yes, yeah.
you really build yourself up for a specific thing, and then it doesn't happen. You're like, well,
Yeah.
I don't like what happened because it's not what I came up with.
Yeah,
We're all
yeah.
guilty of that. It's fine, but
But I'm crossing my fingers for you.
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
crossing my
it
fingers.
just
I would like to see
smacked.
that I would
It
like to see the master again.
Yeah, it just smacked of that scene where Clara was like a woman in the shop. That's like it instantly took me to that kind of off
Yeah,
throwaway line kind of thing where it's going to
yeah.
come back in some way. But then again, I might be completely wrong. But I will temper my expectations, okay? I won't be upset if the master doesn't show up, okay?
No, I think it was just like it was a great indicator of like how a lot of us feel sometimes when we're watching the
Yeah,
Doctor. So even if
yeah.
it's not true, it's something that we've like all gotten so used to doing.
Okay, we can move on. We can talk
Okay.
about Meet the Beep, and I can't pronounce their names. Is it rat,
Keep the meat.
rock? What was it? Rock warriors? Big grasshopper dudes. That's what I'm going to
Big
call them.
grasshopper dudes.
Um,
That's a very good pronunciation for you.
thank you, thank you. Meep, beep, beep, meep, whichever way around it is. I've got my head in a spin about this now, but I will say I think that's one of the probably the best creature effects they've done. Like in terms of a full animatronic thing, and then using a bit of CG to like help bring it to life. Like I thought it was like, again, we mentioned this last week. It was a very Star Wars-esque creation in terms of a puppet that is now brought to life with some extra modern tools. But I believed it. I was when that trailer first dropped with it there, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to buy into this little thing. I don't know if it looks too uncanny or whatever. But having actually
Yeah.
watched the episode and seeing it move around, do its thing, I was like, nope, I'm completely bought into that. This is a living, actual creature that is doing its thing. So yeah, it makes me excited for what can happen down the line if that's what they can achieve now. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
in the past, there's been some like the one that comes to mind is the Ice Warrior in Matt Smith's time. When you saw that
Mhm.
face, I was like, "What the fuck is that? What am I looking at? That does not look
What
real
is
at
that?
all." But yeah,
Yeah.
that makes me excited. As for the
Yeah.
something warriors,
I think it's the
grasshopper
rare warriors. I
Wraith.
don't know.
I think they're purposely designed to look like the way that they do, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, both the Meep and the grasshoppers are direct taking out of the
Yeah.
comic book and just being very faithful to those designs.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I don't mind that they had a bit of a Power Ranger monster look to them,
The
but
claw, like the
yeah,
claws, we just yeah,
but I think
so classic.
it played into, like I was saying, the sort of family friendly fun nature
Yeah.
of the whole thing, and and plus with the reveal of them not actually being a scary monster, they're just
Yeah.
intergalactic police people who are trying to
Yeah.
capture this thing, and they're kind of
This
like
evil thing.
it's just kind of like doddery like police people that it kind of
Yeah.
all worked out in the end and was good. How did you feel about our creatures in this episode?
Yeah, but I've actually, like, read a really interesting article how the Doctor has never been about money and this kind of while there is a lot of Disney money that is new that I feel like we saw a little bit of, like, not like fully sold out kind of situation, right? We saw a little bit of it, and some moments we saw still like the classic old,
Hmm.
like, clunky clunky, things, and it's always been kind of like the acting that has drawn Doctor Who fans and not necessarily the set or the expensive props or anything like that
Hmm.
because it's been going on for so long, right? Very, very different budgets. Um, and I like them, like, I think they did a great job with Beep the Meep, I think may like, I feel like a lot of the budget went into that, rightfully so, right? You have this, like, really for in the beginning of the episode, and for those who didn't know the comic, something that seems, like, really cute, and you're like, "Oh, it hurt its little hand," and, like, it's very kind of, like, just, like, the mechanisms of, like, the body language and the hands, the kind of just being like, "Oh, I'm just a shy little baby," and I'm just like, all of that was really well done.
Yeah.
And I even, like, even the eyes and whatnot and the face, um, 'cause, obviously with, like, such big eyes and such
So it's
a
Pixar eyes.
adorable threat, yeah. They did a really good job with it, I think, to be able to trick people into thinking like, "Oh, this is an adorable little thing," and pulling attention to how cute it was. It needed to be well done. And then, like, not really having much emotion or care for the actual heroes per se in this episode because 'cause you're like, "Ah, whatever, like, just these grasshopper dudes over here." But I think, like, part of that was also intentional is to, like, not make them seem too threatening either,
Yeah.
right? Like, for of course, in the beginning, we think, like, they're here to to freaking get Beep the Meat for their Beep the Meep's fur
Hmm.
and are, like, these horrible bad guys, but then when you kind of see them, you're like, "Are they really?" Like, like, it was kind of an intentional design to be like, they're true to what they look like in the comic, and they're not too hyper, like, fancy or too scary looking or too, like, shiny black, like, Darth Vader-esque type of
Yeah.
style, and I think it was intentional, and it was kind of a nod back to, like, you have so many, like, fancy components to this episode, and then you have so many, like, traditional, not fancy Doctor Who set type of components to it, and I think it was a good combination of both.
Yeah. 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 I liked when the scene where they're shooting the taxi and the taxi wasn't getting damaged at all because I knew the plot from the comic. I kind of
Yeah.
figured that there's a reason for that, but I was like, I bet there's so
Yeah.
many people complaining right now. Those lasers aren't doing any damage. They're not doing anything. I was like, just you wait. It's going to be a reason for it, all
Just do
right?
it, yeah, when there's so much other chaos in the street, right?
That action scene was incredible, though. While we're talking about,
Yeah.
like, that's just well directed. And obviously, this episode was directed by Rachel Talale. Is that how you say her name? I think that's how you say it. She's responsible for a bunch of Peter Capaldi episodes and stuff, and she's very good at what she does. She's
Yeah,
very
it was a great scene.
yeah, it's a good, like I say, a good, more excitement for what other action set pieces that they can do coming up. So that's
Yeah,
exciting.
definitely.
I enjoyed both our creature effects of the episode. Um, Fully convinced by the meat, like you say, all the little mannerisms and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. It's they're going to be
It's
selling
just so cute.
plushies and
100%.
everything. Yeah.
100%, yeah. Probably a lot of kids that are watching that are like, I want the meat for my Christmas present." Parents like, "Great.
They better sell them. I
Thanks."
swear they better do it.
I
They're
I
missing
hope they
out.
do also sell some of, like, Rose's toys because I Rose's toys were awesome,
Hmm.
especially, like, the Ood one was my favorite.
We also got Unit back in
Yes,
this
we did.
episode,
We
and
did.
they're looking. Speaking of Power Rangers, their new outfit is. I mean, I get it. The purpose of their outfit was to hide their eyes when some of them
Yes.
got infected. So we need a convenient way so people can't tell that their eyes are going swirly, swirly. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, but more to it, I don't know if I enjoyed that they were wearing hockey pads all over their all over their body. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. It's nice to see Unit. I
Yeah.
like seeing Unit. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know if the uniform is driving for me.
Yeah, I think, like, even in kind of, like, the closing scene, they're just kind of, like, standing in the background being like, "I don't know what we're doing here." Like, they felt uncomfortable in their own role, some of them.
We also got introduced. I can't remember her name. I should have written it down. Is it Shelley? Oh, Shelley, is it?
Hold on, I wrote this down.
You wrote it down. Okay, good. I'm glad one of us wrote her name down because I really liked her. I really liked her. I'm bad with names. Everyone needs to know this. I'm really bad with remembering names. I need to hear it over and over again.
I
But
thought I wrote it down.
Shirley, that's it. I knew it was an S. Thank you, Eggy. Shirley Bingham. No,
Shirley Ann Bingham.
Shirley Ann Bingham. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked her. I liked, like, as much as I like Osgood, she's fun.
Mm.
I really liked that Shirley wasn't enamored with the Doctor. She's just like, hey, yeah, I know about you. I've read the files.
Mhm.
You're good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a raise from meeting you, so
Yeah.
thank you very much. But like, I like that she was just like, just as obviously competent at her job. She wasn't
Yeah.
obsessed over getting to meet the Doctor one day. She was just like, hey, I get to do that job,
Yeah.
so clearly I'm just as good as the Doctor was because I get to do it too. So
Yeah, and, like, kinda just, like, casually rolls up next to the Doctor
mhm,
being like, what are you doing down here?" And
mhm.
then
Yeah. So I really
yeah.
liked it. So hopefully we'll see more of her as well. Not just
Yeah.
presumably if she's going to be a part of Unit, we'll see her with Shooty as well potentially,
Yeah,
and
that'd be
she'll
good.
she'll get to be a recurring character. So that'll be nice because I enjoyed it, and she has rockets in her wheelchair, which
Yeah,
is
that wheelchair was
it was stacked.
yeah.
I especially liked the
She's
line
like,
"We all
"There's
do."
more!"
But yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
she's cool.
give clutch.
Liked
Yeah.
her, and especially now we've got, unless it gets blown up in the last episode of these 3 episodes, we now have Avengers Unit Tower in the middle of in the middle of London.
Yeah.
But it looks like from what we know, they've built a big permanent set of that helicopter pad in their studios. So
Yeah.
presumably they'll keep using it, maybe.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'd love to see more of her.
hmm So yeah,
She was great.
Unit's always fun. We like Unit. Um, Even if they are all dressed up in bizarre
Even
outfits,
if
but
they
that's
are
fine.
possessed with a psychedelic sun.
Yeah,
Oh,
psychedelic
they're just like,
sun.
"Oh, shining colors. It's a psychedelic sun."
Just
What?
they'll do. I buy it. It's
Drugs are
fine.
bad, kids.
Yes,
Drugs are bad.
living
It's like,
suns
literally.
that get angry and then become psychedelic.
And you get psychedelically possessed by.
Good stuff.
Don't do drugs.
Whilst we're still sort of talking about characters, we got
Yeah.
teased Wilf. Wilf didn't show up
Yeah.
in this episode. I mean,
No, it was
is this a
sad.
spoiler? I mean, I think it's public knowledge that he is going to appear.
Yeah, so he did film some scenes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Although the scene where David Tennant's like, I don't know if they re-edited it after he passed to make a point out of this or not, but the scene where he's kind of remembering him felt so kind of pointed. Like it felt, maybe it's just because he has passed and that made it more emotional. Even though the scene itself is meant to be kind of a jokey. He's not dead, you idiot. Like
Yeah,
it's
I wonder, like, because to me, it kind of felt like they had the knowledge, like, yeah, it was a very interesting, like, delivery where it
mm,
got very serious for a second.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I wonder if they did kind of go back and refilm that specific scene, or if it just feels that way because of us, or yeah,
Mixture of both.
um,
Like they,
yeah, a mixture of both. Because I was like, "Are we gonna get Wolf closure, Wolf?" Because, like,
yeah. I can
it's
only
rough.
imagine that the last episode where
Oh,
he'll
they
be
did, yeah,
appearing.
they did edit that scene after
Oh, did
he
they did?
passed.
Okay,
Yeah,
that explains
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um,
That was very, if not, that would have been very, like, surprisingly
yeah. I expect there will be
predicted.
a dedication to Bernard Cribbins in the last episode where he'll appear. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm excited to see him to get that last performance. I'm sure it'll be emotional seeing him. Because like I say,
Well,
best
Wolf was
best David
everyone's
Tennant
granddad.
companion. I know he's the best 10th Doctor companion. All right, I said it last week. I'll
Yeah,
say it again.
Wolf was amazing, and I think, like, a lot of things between, specifically with, like, David Tennant's Doctor and Wolf is, like, Wolf, like, kind of always just wanted the best for the Doctor as well. Like, Wolf really cared about the Doctor equally as much so as we cared about Wolf, and the Doctor cared about Wolf, and kinda just wanted to be, like, that familiar person, like, be like a family tie for the
hmm
Doctor, and so, yeah, it we all have a special place in our heart for the wholesomeness that is Wilf.
Yeah, that ending scene just before they take off, where they're like, "We're gonna go see Wilf. Come on, he'll like to see the Doctor." It's like it hits so much harder.
I
like,
know,
it's
yeah.
fun fact: Bernard Cribbins was up to play the Fourth Doctor. Did we all know that? There you go. Now you do. He could have been the Doctor at some stage.
He could have.
He has a very funny story that when he was interviewed about playing the part, they asked him, "What can you do?" And he says, "Well, I can fight people pretty good." And they said, "Well, the Doctor doesn't fight anyone, so maybe you're not the right choice." And then he saw Tom Baker playing it, and the first thing he saw was Tom Baker punching someone.
Excuse me? This is bullshit.
God. I think the other big talking point, now that we've got through characters, story, and everything, is that new TARDIS set. That big old TARDIS set looks like a big old room with not much in it.
Yeah, I will say, like, one of the nice things was we see like ramps versus stairs in the TARDIS, which is very kind of indicative of the tone of having, like a really powerful agent in a wheelchair for it. So that was awesome. But it was very like compared to Jodie's TARDIS, right? Like Jodie's TARDIS, I don't even know what was happening there.
Yeah, I will go on record right now saying I do not like Jodie's TARDIS at all.
I don't. It was just like, here's a bunch of crystals, shove them in a place. Yeah, and it was just like so overwhelmingly like busy that was just so empty, and I'm like, I don't know, like there's so much empty space.
I'm hoping, I don't know, because I know that obviously like they're not going to build that set and not keep using it, so obviously Shooty will be using this as well. So it'll be interesting to see if they do any rejigging to reflect Shooty being in there. But as a set, like I say, it is very big and very impressive to look at. I mean, it's very harking back to the classic series console room, which I like, obviously. The only element of it that I was like, I don't know if it's just how it looks on the camera angles or whatever. The actual console itself, I feel like the panels are too sort of thin and long. I don't know if that's just me. It just looks weird to me. That's again,
I'm dying
nitpick.
to make a comment, but I won't.
Yeah,
but...
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Look, long and thin can do things too, right?
yeah, they can. Yeah, I think for me, it just felt like kind of like surgical.
Yes.
I think so. It'd be interesting to see kind of like what personality gets added, because we only see it for a little bit of times, and it's very like brand new, fresh and clean, and felt like very prestige.
Yes.
And I'm sure like through these adventures, there's gonna be like weird quirks or things that happen to it, because I feel like every single TARDIS has always had like one thing broken about it or one thing that it's picky about, something like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, and how they reutilize it for Shooty as well.
All those LED lights, programmable. You can spell words with them. Apparently, that's fun.
Ooh,
I know.
Fancy.
No, I do like it. Overall, I like it. It harkens back to, as much as I joke about how it being a massive empty room.
Very back to the originals.
Yeah, I do like it. I think the console will grow on me. I just feel like naturally, because the room's so much bigger, they've had to make the console itself bigger to sort of fill out the space a little bit. So maybe that's just why it looks a bit odd to me, but I do like it.
I mean, I didn't even get a real look at it before Donna blew it up, so.
Yeah, I know, right? Immediately, it's on fire, not 2 seconds after. I did enjoy David Tennant running around it. Like, that's the one time I will allow this big, like, emotional spill out of just running around all the ramps and just enjoying it.
Just like looking at it, just be like, holy crap, Yeah.
I did like that. So yeah, new TARDIS is fancy. I like it.
It's fancy.
I mean, if you've got anything you want to add about anything, if you've got any notes that you wanted to bring up.
I think maybe just like the sonic screwdriver, the changes that we saw.
Yes. Yeah.
In the sonic screwdriver.
I do like having the ability to make force fields and stuff.
Right? That was wild. It's just like, oh, no problem. We just like scooch on by here with this imaginary glass plane that's gonna protect us.
Yeah,
It was hilarious.
it was a fun sequence.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. It was a great scene.
I'm in two minds of, will this make it even easier just to write anything we need for the purposes of just we need something so we can just have the magic wand do it? Bro, is that going to be a
Yeah.
potential get out of jail free card or not? But on the other
I mean,
side,
when has it not been though, really? Like, if you
yeah,
think
well,
about
obviously,
it,
yeah.
the random shit that
I
the
can do.
screwdriver has been able to do.
Um, but no, I do like that it gives the Doctor a way to be more involved in an action scene in a
Yeah,
very doctorly way, rather than having to engage in any
yeah,
kind of violence. They can still be in the set piece doing a
yeah,
defensive maneuver and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I know during Matt Smith's time he used it to like blast guns out of people's hands and stuff. And then there's that weird
Matt
bit
Smith was
in
a wizard.
yeah, exactly. There was a whole scene in that the Silence episode where he's
Yeah.
blasting people with that sonic screwdriver and they're just falling down. Is he killing them? What's happening? It's so not
Best
answered.
not to talk about
Yeah.
it.
What's happening?
The doctor doesn't, like, kill anybody's,
That
but
we
it's
know of. He just
yeah.
happened to blast a green
There
ray
was a
out of
lot of
his face.
murder in the past. Murder. What murder?
Yeah, you wouldn't catch any of the modern doctors doing a John Pertwee and just shooting
Yeah,
shooting people.
not spelled out directly.
But no, I think we've pretty much covered it. I don't know if we want to
Mm.
do like number ratings or not. I don't know if that's our vibe or not.
I would say maybe at the end of them, because I feel like there's so much that we don't know that could happen in
Yeah,
the other 2 episodes that might kind of change our perspective of
you
this one.
might do. It's true. Okay.
So
Well,
I don't wanna speak too early,
yeah, that's
too
fair.
soon, and then I have to go, like, backtrack myself and be like, "It was actually a 10 out of 10."
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
absolutely fair.
Unless
Um,
you want to, if you wanna be those
all
people.
all I'll say is that as of right now, having only this episode to go off of,
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning of all this, if people are giving this 10 out of 10, if they really enjoyed it, I'm very happy for you. I'm happy that you're
Yeah.
excited about the show again and it's hitting all those buttons for you. For me, I would say 10 out of 10 is pushing it a little bit. Like
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
that's
definitely.
I would
Definitely.
like we say like I feel like this is like I say a very crowd pleasy,
Yeah.
good entry point episode. It doesn't blow my mind at all. Like Eggy was saying in the chat about Rachel Talalay, if I'm saying that right, hopefully I am because I really like her. Responsible for like Heaven Sent and other great Capaldi episodes.
Yeah.
That episode is like a 10 out of 10. That's ridiculously good because
Yeah.
it like melts your brain of like how are they getting away with this? Whereas this is
Yeah,
just
where's this
like
going type of thing.
yeah. And this
Yeah.
episode is like, this is about what I expect Doctor Who to be. It's like, this is, if you were to put Doctor Who into a nut, what would you expect it to be? It's basically this kind of episode at, like I say, like a very face value sort of thing. So I would give it more of a
Yeah.
7, I think is fair. A 7-ish sort of area. Like, maybe, I don't know. I feel like you're like, I don't know if I'd go quite to a 7.
Well, but however, like, it's everyone's own opinions,
Yeah.
right? Like, I like some Doctor Who episodes that everyone fucking despised with
Mm-hmm.
and that left everyone traumatized, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, who my opinion is not the one to like dictate all opinions by any means.
He's
7
7
out
out of 7 brave.
I think as of now, I'll give it maybe a 6. I think, like, I
Mm-hmm.
was very kind of disappointed about, like, there's been this horrible thing that's caused so much pain in Donna's life for the past 15 years, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just, like,
Bye.
fixed. Like, I still don't get why it couldn't have been fixed earlier. Like, I just all of that makes no
Yeah.
sense to me, and I
But
think it was just kind of ridiculous, and I just
the let it
because
go
of that.
thing is sort of like, well, if you could have always done that, why didn't we do that earlier?
And yeah, and not even, like, bringing like, specifically brought gender into the play of it, and,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not even mad about, like I'm sure there's some men that were like, "Of course they would say a man could," like, there's always gonna be those people. It was very Donna-esque of them to say that
Yes.
comment,
Yeah, yeah.
but, like, the previous doctor was a female, like, it maybe would have hit different if we didn't just have a female doctor
Mm-hmm.
who could
Like,
have easily kind of, like, in their remorseful era, because that whole storyline, right?
mm-hmm.
But, could have easily just been like, "Hey, Donna, you know what I thought of? Now that I'm a female, we could just let it go." Like, it wasn't just the fact that you could let it go thing, like, sure, do whatever the fuck you want at this point. Like, this is the type of shit Davies pulls all the
Yeah.
time. I just like it just didn't it just added stuff to it that didn't make it make sense to me, and I think, like, Donna could have gotten justice a lot sooner and maybe not have to
Hmm.
live, like, a life in pain for that long, you know? And if we
Yeah.
could have always done it there, I feel like Donna deserved better, and that's why
You know what kind of reminds
I
me
feel like
of?
it's leaving me a
Um,
little.
Even though I'm not, like, I've mentioned this
Yeah.
over the years, that I'm not a big fan of the Doctor's romantic life story being
Yeah.
told. Um,
Yes.
but with like like Billy Piper Rose,
Yeah.
their ending being the tragic thing that it was, um,
Yeah.
not my
Yeah.
thing, but like I get it. Is it is a well done scene for what it is and what it's trying to get across. To
Yeah.
then have Billy Piper's Rose come back and then separate her off with this other Doctor who she gets to live happily ever after with, and
Yeah.
it kind of smacks of
They're
that.
great. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like we
Yeah, like, everything's fine.
we're not sticking to our
We said
consequences.
goodbye. Yeah, we said goodbye to this already, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, no, and I think in general when it comes to romance and the Doctor, right? Like, I think that's why I loved Matt Smith and Amy Pond season because it's not a romantic and there's been many other companions before Matt Smith
mm,
and Amy that weren't romantic. But I think with the Doctor, there's like that heart burden
mm,
and heartbreak of Rose so much with David Tennant's Doctor the entire time. And
yeah,
yeah, I kind of just I guess not for the Doctor that stayed in this side of the world, I guess, wasn't like a consequence-free thing, but for Rose and them for the most part, like it was a pretty happy roundabout ending for them in more ways than one. Um, and
yeah.
yeah, but I feel like that still made more sense than this. I just like this just really fucking irked me because I was like, "What the fuck do you mean?" Like there could have been justice for her
Yeah.
so much earlier. And
No.
yeah, it's like you said, like just imagine Jodie sitting at home being like, "What the fuck?"
It's
Because
I think it's
I would
valid.
imagine that too. I
Yeah,
don't know who decided that that was a good idea. I
yeah.
just
I think it's
yeah.
a valid thing to be feeling about that
Yeah.
moment. Like I say, it's nothing to do like you're right. There are a lot of people complaining about because they're bit of men children who are like, oh, you have to call out that he's a man, and that's the problem.
Y
That isn't the problem with
yeah,
that
like
scene.
no,
That's not the
no,
problem.
not at all. Like, we just had a female doctor, and it's like, just I don't yeah. Yeah, but
uh,
I did really like Shirley's character, though. It's like they're, like, letting it go, and she's just like like,
yeah,
it's
just
like
blowing
kind
it
of like a
away.
smoke yeah. Bye.
Oh dear. Okay, I guess
Mm,
what we'd say now, now we've got
yeah,
the Star Beast out of the way, what are
yeah.
our speculations about the episode that's coming
Oh, I
next or
don't even
this week that we know nothing about because we've got about 20 seconds of footage to go off? If
I
that.
don't even fucking know. I don't even wanna speculate anymore. I don't know. I'm sure it's gonna be your typical, like,
I mean, it looks creepy.
Donna complex thing, yeah, it is one of the ones that is also fully done in set, right? Like,
Yes.
they didn't do any shooting outside whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's gonna add an interesting dynamic to it of kind of just maybe, like, having no idea of whereabouts they might be. I feel like we see a lot of episodes where we're kind of stuck inside the TARDIS just being like, "What is
Yeah.
happening?" And I think maybe there'll be a little bit of that, but yeah, I have no idea, honestly. Like, I don't even wanna speculate. I just wanna go into it
That's fair. That is
with
fair.
blissful ignorance, I think, because yeah,
All we've seen really is based on the little clips. We've seen David Tennant lick some goo off of a circuit board. We've
probably good
seen
goo.
good goo. And we've seen a little clip that they think they released today or yesterday, of something watching them from within a vent. Like there's a
Yeah,
POV shot from inside a vent as they're sort of talking about the TARDIS disappearing because of the HADs. Those HADs, it'll
yeah,
get you. And that's kind of it. I know there's a lot of
yeah.
speculation that, hey, maybe one of the other doctors might show up in this episode because we don't know anything about it. I'm not going to hold out hope for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm not convinced that that's going to be the case. No, Eggy, you are right. Meet the Beep being voiced by Miriam. I can never say her last name. Margulies, I think.
Margulies?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
she did a
think.
great job.
I
She did a
think.
great.
Yeah, I'm the one that always pronounces things wrong.
Yeah,
Never look at
I'm
me.
looking to you.
Trying to answer.
No, you're right. She did a good job at doing the
Yeah,
cutes
yeah,
and
she's
then
brilliant.
turning it into evil. I'm evil now.
Yeah. Ah,
um,
screw this.
Wild Blue Yonder is, just because we don't know anything, is the episode that I'm probably most interested in. It may be the worst. For all for all I know, it might be the
Yeah.
worst one. But I feel
Yeah.
like shooting it entirely in set where they have completely closed set where they can control the whole thing
Yeah.
has
It'll be
interest.
interesting.
There
Yeah.
must be a purpose for that and whatever. So we'll see. It looks creepy though and
Yeah.
scary, so we like that.
Yeah.
So
And David Tennant did tease that there's a scene with an apple very early on. So, at least we know that there's an apple coming our way.
a scene with an apple, huh? Is it going to
Yes, that
be?
was his little teaser.
Is it going to bring in Karen Gillan with her apple with the face
Oh, don't
drawn
even
on it?
tease me.
Is that what it's going
Don't
to
even
be?
tease me like that. Could you imagine? No, I mean, I'm sure it's just something silly with an apple.
Yeah, absolutely is. I remember Rusty Davis was asked, "Can you give us anything?" I think this is in the magazine, Doctor Who Monthly.
Mhm.
Could you give us a hint of one of the episodes? And the quote was just those random words that, well, it's the words that Donna speaks when she first loses her memory, and then he
Yeah.
uses to reactivate the memory, and he just said that
Yeah.
as a quote.
Yeah.
That was his tease. So it kind of that it's the Apple thing, kind of like that just sounds like another thing that's just going to be a silly thing when it actually happens. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, something I don't think you've seen because you can't, because the
Yeah.
BBC won't
Yeah.
let you watch it because
I
you're
was
in
also having
America.
VPN issues, and I was very upset about it. It's fine. It's fine. I try to
Um,
look up stuff though.
mhm.
Still.
You try. Like, don't they know I've got a podcast to be a part of now? I need to know these things. I need to know all the information.
All of the information.
So just feel free to jump on me if you have any questions or comments about this.
Mhm.
On top of the Star Beast coming out as part of the new Doctor Who continuation, on the actual birthday of Doctor Who, we got a colorization re-edit of the Daleks, which is the first Dalek story from 1963. It's the
Mhm.
second story of the whole show. And yeah, I watched it. The colorization is really good. Like, it
Mhm.
very much has that poppy 60s look to it, and they absolutely took liberties with what things actually were, and they were just like, you know what, if they made this in color, I think this is what they would have done, is the vibe of the
Yeah.
colorization.
Yeah, because you had to use kind of different colors back then purposely.
So yeah, I think that they did a good job with that, and it's painstaking work from what I understand doing that.
Mhm.
So I enjoyed that aspect, plus silver and blue Daleks, my favorite Daleks. And I want them silver and blue again. I will fight for this. Make the Dalek silver and blue again. That's what
Oh my
t-shirt
gosh.
I'm gonna get.
Okay. Justice for silver and blue Daleks.
So yeah, the colorization was great. The music, because they redid the music as well.
Mhm.
They had the original music there, but then they added on top of it. They got
Mhm.
Mark Ayres, who did a number of soundtracks for Sylvester McCoy's stories.
Mhm.
So they brought him in to sort of use that soundtrack, but then add stuff on top of it to. I mean, it, it felt like someone said to him,
Oh god.
"Has this scene got any music on it? No. Well, you better put music on it, because there's
How dare.
constant music throughout the whole thing, and sometimes it's a little bit loud. It might be a little bit too loud. I don't know what happened with the mixing, but it definitely felt like they were panicked that, oh no, it's slowing
There's
down
gonna
to
be
to
silence.
60s television. People are going to get bored. Put music on it now. Go, go, go. It was
You gotta keep them hooked.
like they were threatening his kids or something. I don't know if he has kids, but if he has kids, it felt like someone was sat in the corner with a gun to their head, like, you better put music on it. Put more music on this right now.
Oh no.
It was, yeah, I don't know. I think they could have stood to maybe take a step back from the amount of. I mean, the music was great. He did really good work. It's just like there's a lot, and it's
Yeah.
constant.
Do you
Um,
think it was because they were kind of scared that, like, maybe the dialogue wouldn't capture, like, as people as much, or do you think it was just kind of, like,
I think it's they wanted to keep the
keeping it busy?
pace going. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and keeping it busy. Like you say, like I feel like they're
Yeah.
very much trying to get this in front of people who, let's say it, like the TikTok generation, basically.
Yeah,
They want to appeal to that
that's true.
audience.
Yeah.
So that's not me dissing people of the TikTok generation. People
The
but
TikTok
but
generation, oh my gosh.
people in media tend to think that a lot of you might have short attention spans and need some need something to keep you engaged.
I wonder why.
And I mean, it's been a little while since I watched the original
Yeah,
6 parts or whatever. And this talks about how they edited it as well, and which I'll talk about in a second. But
yeah,
partly because of the music as well, it does feel like the story loses a bit of its atmosphere. And so much of that story is a slow building dread of what's
yeah,
slowly being revealed. So
yeah, what's happening?
with the music and the editing, it's kind of like that on fast forward a little bit, and
Yeah,
it kind of loses that in the process. Like it's gone from a very kind of atmospheric, slow build kind of a story
yeah.
into an action story with this. with
But, like,
this,
just real quick.
yeah, the editing. So I don't know how long the original cut is because I think they've shaved off maybe 100 minutes from the original cut.
Ooh, interesting.
If I'm right.
It's, like, 25 minutes from each episode that was, like, averaging about 175-ish minutes or something like
Yeah,
that.
I'm
It's
I'm
a
fairly
lot of
I'm fairly
even small
sure
things.
I'm right that I saw
I'll trust you.
someone say that they've basically cut out 100 minutes from the original, which is a lot. That's a lot to take out, and
That's more than half,
um,
almost. Yeah.
so I do kind of wish that they maybe rather than a 70-minute runtime, which I think it was in total, that they gave them maybe 90 minutes. I think that might have helped a lot.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's a fair amount of time, like, that's, I feel like an hour and a half is, like,
yeah,
fair enough to be like, "Oh, like, this is," it's not gonna be as long as a super long movie, but, like, we could sit down, you know,
yeah, like
and still hold people for that one.
um, they do some interesting things with the editing in that they do a good job with rather than losing some scenes entirely. They do a good job of like putting them over one another, so it feels like things are happening at the same time. Whereas
Mhm.
previously it would be like, here's this scene, and now it's this scene, and now it's this scene,
Yeah.
and they've sort of done that and then put them all together in a way to again keep the pace moving
Mhm.
and get over all the information in a shorter space of time. I mean, all in all, I think I liked it. It's certainly, like I say, I think it absolutely will appeal to people who've never watched these stories
Yeah.
before over the original cut.
Yeah.
And if anything, it might make more people curious to see the original version
Mm.
if they watch this version
Yeah, like,
and
what else
enjoy it.
happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like get your Lord of the Rings extended version. Basically, if you want to see all those other scenes.
Always the
Um,
extended version.
there's one scene in particular that stands out to me where I
Mhm.
feel the editing wasn't working as intended. They tried to cut up a scene where Ian, Doctor's companion, is in a Dalek
Mhm.
outfit, tank, whatever you want to call it. He's inside a Dalek, right? And he's
Yeah.
pretending to take them for questioning. That's what he's doing in an effort to escape from the city.
Mhm.
Um, and in the scene, they decide to cut up and turn the scene where they're trying to get inside a lift past another Dalek who's like
Mhm.
saying, "Where are you taking them? I'm taking them to
Yeah.
questioning." That's the scene. But
Yeah.
they cut this up into like an action montage, and it's so disorientating. It's people getting into a lift. It's like there's moments where the Doctor's
Oh,
like
interesting.
teleporting around the scene. One minute he stood over here, then he stood over here. It's like, what is going on?
Interesting.
It's
So something
all
that was
over the place.
simple was made action-packed.
It's like just show them going in the lift, okay?
You're like, "That's it. There's no more to it."
And they've
Just
got
set up
this,
and lift.
and they've added in like this boppy '60s heist music whilst this is going on. It's like this is like the least action moment ever.
Uh, Do you
Literally
not get
people getting in a
excited
lift.
about getting in the lift? Don't you treat your lift rides like a combat scene shot in the 60s?
Yeah. It's
I've been doing life wrong.
like that's the scene that I would point to go, I see what you're doing. I think it's a
Yeah,
good idea all in all, but
yeah.
that's the sort of stuff where you need to let scenes breathe as
Just
intended.
yeah, just let everyone just cool down.
Like, you don't
Gotcha.
have to, like, we're living in an age now where, you know, you've got A24 putting out movies which are
Yeah.
that are doing very well. Like, they're
Mhm.
making good money. People are clearly going to see them, and those movies, you know, they let scenes
Yeah.
breathe. It shows that an audience will pay attention if you give them the
Yeah, yeah.
opportunity. So,
Yeah, you're okay with the silent moments.
exactly,
Yeah,
which is what this overall thing is lacking the most.
yeah,
It's lacking that sense of, like I say, the dread, the
yeah.
reveals, because they're so quick just to go from bit to bit to bit to bit. But all in all, I think it's a valid, strong first attempt at doing this, because at the end of this, they hint that they're doing some more, because there's a bunch of
Ooh,
clips from various other black and white stories
that are colorized.
that have been colorized. So it's like, hey,
Fancy.
we're gonna do some more.
Yeah, depending on how people feel about this.
Yes, basically, that's
Or maybe not
definitely,
even depending, because I mean, sometimes they just do what they want.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's exciting. Hopefully they learn what they learned from this, and they take that on to whatever one they do next. We also saw, I think it was in a trailer or something, because they put out another trailer which had Paul McGann narrating. Like, they basically did
Mhm.
like a 60 years trailer thing.
Yeah.
And they had a clip from Tomb of the Cybermen, which wasn't
Ooh,
included at the end of this, which was also colorized.
interesting.
So,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm
I
excited to
bet the
see more.
Spider-Man couldn't be more riveting.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. It was like I say, a perfectly good attempt and fun for what it is. I just think the music could be turned down just a little bit, just a little bit. Maybe give Marquez
That's
a
fair.
break. Stop holding him hostage while he tries to do this music.
He's like, I hope they like it, like shaking, drinking his coffee cup the next morning or his cup of tea.
I should also say, if you're interested in watching, obviously it's on the iPlayer if you're in the UK.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's getting a physical release as well, which may be worldwide. I don't know.
Interesting.
Um, it's definitely, if you're interested in classic Who, but you're kind of worried that you won't get on with it because of the nature of how television was made at the time. This is a this is a good alternative. But
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah. I
jumping
still got a
into,
lot of bits and parts.
if you're jumping into William Hartnell for the first time, it's worth just kind of noting that, especially at the very beginning, like, the whole plot of this story takes place because he tricks all of his companions at the time into, the TARDIS is broken. Oh no, I guess we'll have to go down to the city and have a look around. It's
I
probably
think
dangerous.
I think one of the things I saw was that they kind of cut out a scene that showed some distrust with Susan and maybe Ian. I can't remember who else was in the original scene of that, of like
Yeah.
not trusting the doctor, and they cut that out in this, like the special. And I wonder,
I
like
mean,
as you said, they're kind of being tricked a little bit, you know?
I mean, is Ian, for the most part, in all of those early stories, is more like the
Mhm.
Doctor that we know than what the Doctor is, because Ian kind of fulfills the more heroic role in the show
Yeah,
during those early years. Uh,
yeah,
the Doctor's more aloof and mysterious. You don't really know what is going through his head at any given moment. Um,
yeah,
and obviously hasn't had all the years of experience that all the other ones have had, hanging around those
yeah.
pesky humans. And obviously,
Those
obviously
darn
those
humans.
darn humans. um, but I'm always interested when people sort of first see William Hartnell, and, like, they can see
Yeah,
bits of the Doctor there, like those more grumpy aspects, and they can sort of see, oh, so that's where all this comes from. I get
yeah.
it.
This makes so much sense
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I look forward to see how they handle the other ones if they do decide to keep doing it. But that's it.
Yeah, would be cool.
Is there anything else? Some other things happened. I didn't really look up any news for this one because I figured we'd be talking about a lot
Yeah, I
I
haven't seen much in the
no,
news, to be fair.
I think
I'm gonna be real honest.
the only big thing is that they released another image of Shooty and Millie. I think from the Christmas episode. I guess it's from the Christmas episode. They're sort of attached, tied up to a wooden pole. Millie looking kind of concerned about their predicament, whilst the doctor's like, "It's fine, don't you worry about it. I got this."
Everything's totally fine.
Yeah, so that came
Totally
out.
fine. I'm so excited for Shooty, I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I am appreciating these moments, I'm like, you know, I just
um,
love Shooty.
yeah, and like I said, that trailer. It was nice to have Paul McGann voice that trailer that they put out, so he's not excluded from the whole event. Because I feel like of all of the Doctors, he's probably the one that might get sidelined more than he should. I still stand by it. I mean, I love John Hurt in Day of the Doctor. He did a great job, but I still maintain that it should have been Paul McGann. They should have had Paul McGann. There's no reason why they didn't have Paul McGann do it.
Yeah.
There's no good reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, then there's rumors abound that apparently they're gonna do a spin-off with Paul McGann. I don't know if I believe that myself.
Interesting.
We know they are doing spin-offs. We can talk about this more when we sort of get through these specials, because then we can maybe speculate about
other stuff. Yeah.
what they might do. But I know that was a rumor that was going around. Some people have debunked it. Some people have been like, no, but there's this evidence to say that they're gonna. It's a whole thing.
As it is with any fandom, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to Paul McGann's spin-off if you want to do like a mini, like 4-episode thing. Give him some actual screen time. Justice for Paul McGann. I guess.
Oh my gosh! Also, Paul aged really well too. So
he still looks really. And plus, we saw him older on screen because of Night of the Doctor and all that. So you could still get away with him doing it quite easily.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, BAFTA put out a thing for the 60th where they had.
I did see that.
All the pictures of all of them, and including Paul. I cheered.
Yes.
They included Paul's there. He did it. He got in. He's part of them.
Paul, you got in, Robin.
It's like, or just basically
Paul's just like, fuck off, everybody.
I mean, it was all the modern Doctors. I was like, okay, that's what I expect. And then I saw, wait, there's one more picture. Who else is it going to be? And then it was Paul. I was like, oh my god, they got Paul McGann in there as well. Speaking of photo shoots, Radio Times did a photo shoot with a bunch of people. I think Bonnie Langford was there with Mandip Gill. They did a few photos together. Sort of the one that obviously stood out to me was the Tom Baker one. God bless that man. He's like in his 90s now. And
I'm here.
Yeah.
Just stick me where I need to be.
What's great about that photo is like, he's obviously like, I hadn't seen him for a little while. So obviously he looks like a man in his 90s, but still has that mischievous twinkle in his eye. He's not. It feels like he hasn't lost any part of his wit or mind at all. He's still just him. It's just obviously as sadly as it is, the body has aged.
Yes. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Good for him. Sort of still doing interviews and stuff, and having photos and being a part of all of it and all that good stuff.
Yeah, the heart's still there.
Yeah,
the heart is still there, which is awesome.
But yeah, I think that's everything for this one. Okay, I think we're all good then. We can close out episode 2. Hey, Tash.
Yay!
We did a second episode of this thing.
We did. Look at us go.
Look at us.
Look at us go.
Look at us go. So
yes, the two of us
just
doing podcast episodes.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, I guess. Same time, unless anything stops us for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about the wild blue yonder. I know we're not exactly striking while the iron is hot when the episodes air, and the YouTube version is probably out on the Saturday just before the next episode.
I think it's
Who
fine.
cares? Who cares?
I think it's fine. Yeah.
It's fine.
We're
it's all
good.
Don't worry.
Life happens.
But yeah, so thank you for watching YouTube.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
And everyone here on Twitch right now for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next week. Goodbye, YouTube in particular, because we're still going to be here for Twitch. But Bye, YouTube. We'll catch you next time.
Catch you on the flip side.